Today we're going to take a look at some more of this unit's lit terms. We'll deal with atmosphere, imagery, and grotesque. Atmosphere is the general feeling created for a reader by a work at a given point. It's established through elements such as imagery, setting, and sound. Atmosphere is synonymous with mood, but it's different than tone. So tone, remember, is how an author feels toward the reader, audience, or subject matter that they're writing about. But atmosphere is more about how the author is making you, the reader, feel at any point in the book. So the example I chose is from page 69, and it says, I try to think of my family, my aunt, my sister, my little brother, to hold them in my heart before I die. I try to open the locked door in my mind where I hide them, but I can't do it. I can't see them anymore. I can't make the faces come back. But now the Khmer Rouge, they win. They kill the family in my mind. So it's really interesting to look at how Patty McCormick creates atmosphere in this book. We talked a bit at the beginning of the book about how she really creates that pit in your stomach because we know what's coming for Arn in this book before he does. He's a kid and he doesn't really understand what's happening around him, but because of our historical background that we did, we know what's ahead for him. So she does this not only in that way, but she does it in a few other ways as well. It's interesting. We're going to talk about imagery in a second, but she really pairs imagery and atmosphere well in this text because in this particular example, she's creating this very vivid image of the family that Arn holds in his mind, but she's also describing that he's losing the clarity of that image because of all of the other sensory overload that he's experiencing in the camp. He's starting to sort of forget his family and what they look like and all of that. And it's just fascinating to me how she is able to create this motif of the family in Arn's mind, but then that really disintegrates as he is spending more and more time in the camp, and the Khmer Rouge is having such an impact on his daily life and his thinking and mentality. The next term is imagery, which is the use of vivid or figurative language to represent objects, actions, or ideas. The example I chose is from page 70, and it says, the moon-faced guy, he yells stop, very loud, very angry. Right away I kneel down. I know what happens if you don't kneel. The Khmer Rouge make you die extra slow, maybe cut the liver out, and you die watching it wiggle on the knife. So Patty McCormick really spends time providing you with some stark contrast with her imagery. Remember in the beginning of the book, she really develops these images of Cambodian culture and nightlife and music and food and family and all of these things. And she really paints this picture for you in the beginning so that she can sort of tear that image down when everyone is walked out of the city and made to live and work in these labor camps. And the images change drastically when these people get to these camps. And we see some brutality when people are, forced to work in, grueling conditions. And then we also see some executions, like the one that's being described in this particular scene in the example. The words that are used in this example are very childish, like words like wiggle. Arn is describing this man's liver wiggling on the end of a bayonet, and that image is just really powerful because we're reminded by the language being used in this excerpt that a child is seeing this happen. So again, McCormick spends a lot of time developing images, not only to paint that picture for you as a reader, but to show you that everything that's happening in this book is through the lens of a kid. The last term that we'll cover today is grotesque, which is strangely unusual things, bizarre or unnatural combinations of characteristics or images. So the example I chose is from page 76 to 77, and this kind of carries on from the idea that I was talking about in the last term, imagery. It says, the guy in the white shorts, he has a gun with a knife attached, a bayonet. He pointed the bayonet at the chest of one guy in the row. Then very quick, he sliced the skin and pull out the liver. So quick, so neat. The liver, it stick on the end of the knife. The kneeling guy, he's still living, his liver not inside him anymore, in front of his face. The guy in the white shorts, he'd do this to each man in the row. Like butcher, he cut each one and pull out the liver, the spleen, the heart. Blood everywhere, the white pant, the bare chest, all blood. So, obviously what's going on in this scene is exceptionally graphic and brutal, and obviously we know that Arn is a child witnessing all of this. So when we're thinking about this piece as a young adult book, I think it's interesting to look at whether or not Patty McCormick like crosses a line in her descriptions of the killings that happened in this camp. So I'm curious as we get to our discussion at the end of the week how you guys feel. But we always come back to this question of, should this book be marketed as a young adult book? Is it too graphic, or is it not? And back on page 22, Arn says, in just one day, a person can get used to seeing dead body. And now that we're getting to these more gruesome parts of the book, I kind of wonder like how Arn was feeling at this point, like if he's truly starting to desensitize, or if this rips him up like it would, like you would imagine that it would.